Artur Vladimirovich, hello, we finally made it to visit you. In your shamanic organization, which is called Tengri, please kindly introduce yourself to our esteemed audience and share a bit more about yourself.
Artur Vladimirovich Tsybikov, hereditary shaman, dark Anzarin bow. Short and clear. Chairman of the Angara religious organization of Shamans Eternal Blue Sky.
Since our subscribers have accumulated a lot of questions already, let's dive right in and start with the questions. Of course, without a doubt, I'm curious. How many years have you been dedicated to shamanism? Where were you initiated and who was your first teacher? And is he your only teacher or others?
Well, let's say since childhood. I remember how my grandfather is noted in Buryatia's shamanism books as a Zakamensky district shaman. Since childhood, I've seen him perform rituals. This is my grandfather, who was a shaman. From young, seen him perform rituals. I would come over and he would perform rituals, heal people, and basically I've been in touch with shamanism since childhood. As I remember, we would go Kuzir, the village near the town of Zakaminsky, and there I saw him pouring water into a basin. He would heat tin or lead in a jar and pour it into the basin. If it's a stalagmite or a stalactite, which became a fire from below or started to be cunning, well, in general, the ice rises in the water. So he could help a person. What purpose? If it's like a fraction, like mercury, the molten tin would scatter across the surface, and he would say that the illness wouldn't withstand it. And people would leave looking for other ways. In 1988, my dad became a shaman. And he had a teacher, Alexei Narboyev, in the town of Zakamensk. And since 1988, I was approximately about 14 or 13 years old. And I would go with my dad to all the rituals, to all the events. So I've been familiar with this since childhood. As long as I can remember, I always wanted to be a doctor or a shaman. I don't know. Well, in 1990 I didn't manage to become a doctor.
Why 1990?
Well, I finished school, got into Khabarovsk Medical University. So I got in with the seniors, I was among them. So it turned out that I then went to the army.
But you didn't often crack your knuckles, did you? Yeah.
Well, that's how it is. Well, in the 90s, either you hit or you get hit. Well, the characters are warriors this year, that's why...
This year.
No, choice. Explains everything. There's no choice. Die or win. And direct shamanism, the modern kind, is not really modern. It's our archaic ancient tradition. But since there were tough times, our Buryat shamans, like the lamas, they hid. And that's why the shaman's attire was very simple. A cap, a jacket, and that's it. When modern Russia came, it became possible to restore all the traditions. Yeah, we put on the degulas again. I started to set up the shamanic attributes and drums to pray. And if we're talking about the drums, we started with my father. Since 2007,
because of the accompaniment, you may not be heard. We have them working. They are working. You can hear them like, well, okay, try it. But it's okay.
The workers are working. They're fixing the floors. That's why since 2007, my dad and I started practicing old shamanism in a modern form, so to speak, and it underwent a requalification. We have a concept in shamanism called Yabgumbo, which is Tashkabaringan, that is this, on foot. Or I used to pray with a tahilka. Tashkabaringan, Yabgumbo, Zarindarhumbo, drum attire. Zarindarhumbo. So indeed, already with the drum, in the attire, with the the boutique, with all these restored customs, traditions and prayers, this is from the year 2000. I started helping my dad. We were initiated in Aginsk. My dad. And my teacher was Berema. Shenon Baldanova,
the new mom's
our
root,
first
all in
teacher.
the new start.
So you are spiritual?
Followers of such an Eastern school.
Yes, actually I am from Zakamensk myself, also Eastern, she is, yes.
Just, excuse me, but...
Here I have my dad from Zakamensk.
I also have modern geography with people wandering, but my mom's roots They are all from Irkutsk.
Therefore, when I was initiated on the maternal line, I stood behind their forehead, that is, I have a root. Is shamanism maternal? I feel that. So I definitely feel more comfortable, easier and simpler in Angarsk, in Irkutsk.
So you have shamans indeed from both of your family.
From both lines.
But did you take it?
But I took the maternal side. My dad is currently 75 years old now. He lives in Ulan-Ude, so he directs and works. That's why, that's how it is. Since 2007, we've been in modern old shamanism, so to speak, with drums. I personally dedicated myself in 2010. From 2010, I practiced Shaman Darhanbo 15 years. I am a Shaman Darhanbo practicing, and so it's been approximately 15 years now, already.
Is there an anniversary for you?
Yes, there's definitely a legacy. You can really feel it, I really feel it strongly.
Anniversary?
Yes, the anniversary person has really gained a lot of various things. Revelations and understanding have come. So indeed it seems...
So these informational layers more are gradually being loaded.
The informational layers are constantly being loaded from morning till night, 24/7. That's why a shaman is always healthy. Health, both physical, mental and emotional, and in a normal and stable state of mind.
You didn't have any doubts at the very beginning of your journey, or maybe you still do sometimes.
In fact, doubts and a certain caution should be present. I think that in every shaman and in every person, in order not to lose their mind, because to let down the Angons and see the otherworldly realm or some things that an ordinary person doesn't see in real life, it's the edge of schizophrenia, mental health disruptions, and to not lose your mind and not lose your adequacy and sense of reality. A shaman must absolutely definitely have it. A critical look at oneself from the outside, so you don't get carried away, don't start reaching for the stars or anything like that. As they say, Duhuni mother, I'm coming in. So, elevating oneself above others is absolutely not allowed, especially to insult people, let alone being arrogant. Insulting others, to be above them, we are here for the people. So we kind of relate to modernity, understanding it as a service sector.
So, but, and so on and so forth, etc. and so on. I understand that it's not possible to explain this briefly, at least to outline some of the main points. Yes, in the question of how Buryat shamanism differs from other traditions,
Well, I haven't delved into other traditions to that extent that we are now in, yes, in our national Buryat one, but I've also touched on and from open, naturally accessible sources. Comparing, understanding, analyzing, there's really not much difference. Everywhere, everything was ritualized. It seems that in every nation, in our Russian Federation, there is the concept of three worlds. As we have, according to the lower world, Dotzambit, the middle world, which is Zambit, and the upper world, Zambit. We also have the concept of amorphous moments. They are practically the same everywhere. Kangons are the same. Yakuts, Evenks, Tuvans, Moscow, Nanai, Kamnigan. Creating figures of Kangons, or talismans for various situations, they are practically the same everywhere. What about the Yakuts, Evenks, Tuvans, Muscovites, Nanai, Kamnigan? All of them. So the Japanese arrest coincides, it matches very closely. Rituals and all things. The only difference is in the terminology of names, specifically the words used, but the meaning and essence are actually the same.
Well, we already tried to indeed step into the territory, so to speak, and actually ask about your ancestors. Those who are alive today, the father, well, until now, right? So, until now, as they say, right? Here, on the horse and the Kemla and all that stuff. But maybe you know something about your more ancient ancestors who were shamans.
But the ancient ancestors are just specific names of shamans from the lineage that we know and remember. We have the concept of genealogical requirements. It's about who gave birth to whom. Vital for life, prevent genetic disorders. Life continued and there were no genetic disorders. And we Buryats need to know the 7th and 9th generations of our descendants. Don't mix, avoid incest, prevent genetic problems. Uther root has no expiration. Genetic problems, lineage. Root is timeless. Ancestors' names match records. So, We always need to distinguish who gave birth to whom. That's one thing. Specifically, the ancestors who have achieved sanctity and work in the heavenly office have names. These match the birth records of those individuals directly, who were shamans both in life and in history. That's right. But we also have a technique called Amgondaurulha, which means when we embody the Amgona within ourselves, and the spirit of the ancestor speaks about who belongs to whom, which ancestor is in which heaven, how many generations away from us, lived, what he did, what abilities and qualities he possessed, and it gives names. This is called Dudolga, meaning Buryat, right? So it's the names of the ancestor being invoked. Well, or in modern terms, it's like a username and password.
Uh-huh. I see. But you mentioned that there is Tiek present. Yes. If there is a textbook on Buryat tradition in the family, then there is a big responsibility here. So, for example, if a woman, let's say, marries a Portuguese man, how do the ancestors view that?
Great. Of course, a person lives, they just have to fulfill the mission of their lineage. For women, there are 5: daughter, wife, mother, grandmother. And around the age of 45-50, a woman becomes the keeper of the family hearth. Her task is to run around under the guidance of the Akan and to pray. Sit.
And the last questions from the path line. Are you planning to dedicate your children then?
My second daughter is dedicated, according to her maternal line, through my wife. It's not always the case in a family that the UTXA is passed down from father to son.
You mean through several generations?
Usually it's through generations, but in our traditions and customs, it's very important to understand. It's very important for me that all the shamans, regular people, hear this too. There is a concept of continuous UTXA. This is when, during their lifetime, a shaman personally passes on their knowledge to their descendant. It doesn't matter. This is a son, a nephew, a grandson, a grandson. It doesn't matter. They pass it on personally during their lifetime. And if there are 9 generations without interruption, this transmission will take place. Then there will be a 9 to 10 mom who will be, well, you could say there will really be a God on earth who can actually do telekinesis, fly, walk on water, and be in multiple places at once, to clone. This is related to all these conditions, our Buryat and shamanic traditions, and we have lost them for one reason or another. For well-known reasons, let's say, it's well-known, due to the acceptance of Buddhism and the Soviet power of the NKVD.
Yes, I see, the council is asking. Look, what should a person who is forced or planning to become a shaman understand or know?
I always recommend knowing absolutely nothing. Choose a teacher for yourself and start with a clean slate. Of course, because I explain to all my students, I say, I give a simple example. A person wants to try what I, for example, prepared, a fruit drink. He says, I want to try your fruit drink. I ask, do you have a glass? He says, yes. You pour it all out and I'll pour you some. And also knowledge. When a person comes to us, it's very difficult. From him, as they say, we need to remove his old life experience, certain things, and try to explain to him what we want to convey. If a person is open and everything else, well, otherwise moving aside, and he studies what we give him. Over time, what he has in terms of experience and our knowledge, he combines it all, developing his own handwriting style and unique features. This is important later. At the initial stage, of course, a person should come in just like a blank sheet, paper, without any ambitions or pride, like I know I have a bunch of certificates and diplomas. I was that. I was talking informally with the god of death, Erlikan, and, of course, it's interesting to communicate with the mother of God. Saint Nicholas will appear, he is their ancestor.
Well, maybe they just believe in Yuri and Koschenko too.
Well, I would say that 90% of the people in Koschenko, or here in Buryatia at the glass factory, are unfulfilled shamans. That's the problem. Yeah.
So everything is clear. Okay, since we started talking about illnesses, what is shamanic illness? How can it manifest? Does everyone experience something like this? And did you have shamanic illness?
Shamanic illness, I had it. It manifested in the fact that I lost absolutely everything in a short period of time. Finances, support, friends, health. And when I went to Mongolia, a very famous Lama there in Halama told me, Arthur, you need to be a shaman. Your ancestors have come to you. I said, my dad is a shaman. He said, no, you need to as well. That's it. And so in 2007,
And you just agreed right away?
Well, we Buryats, the elders said we need to do it. And that's it. I came back from Mongolia to Buryat in 2007. So, due to the circumstances, my dad got sick and they took him to Aginsk, where they corrected his diagnosis and said that I also had shamanic illness. And so I traveled for 3 years, learning and observing, and by the 10th year I was already initiated. This.
So you needed some time to get it later? Yes. I was learning for 3 years.
Our training isn't traditional education. Shamanic learning became clear in regular educational institutions. Later I understood what shamanic training is. And these are real practical things. When your teacher shaman says, go travel approximately 100 kilometers and bring back a ram, and so you get there, and there's no shepherd, the rams are running around, and you wait for a guy to show up, and you say, hello, can I buy a ram from you? The owner will come now and say everything. I said, which owner? My wife. I said, what's wrong? Can't you make a decision? Oh, wife, the owner. So they have a matriarchy, and we wait for the owner. The owner has arrived, selling a ram, buy an Eirik, travel for rituals. And there's a step. You need to travel 100 kilometers through the trees to get things for the rituals. Purchase. And you also need to take them so that they look a certain way.
A sample has been established.
Sample installed. Mark the north side. When you dig it up with roots and replant, you can track it. In winter, dig a hole to bury these up to the second intestines. It's not boring. Not boring. In winter, you have to dig a hole to bury these up to the second intestines. These are the leftovers, what they will wash.
So you did everything yourselves?
What asking for?
Do you know how to clean intestines?
What can I do? I can do everything. I was breaking it with a crowbar, washing the intestines, carrying everything, we did it all. All the rituals. I learned without realizing. Teaching showed my skills. When I was already dedicated, I already understood how it all was. And when I became a teacher myself and started passing on my experience, it dawned on me that I could do all of this, that I knew it and I was capable.
And do all your students study for 3 years before their initiation?
No, they get initiated and learn. Someone will come here, someone is arriving.
Bring them to him.
No, why not? Initiation and learning, they are independent. It's mutually fulfilling. Yes, it's synchronous or mutually fulfilling. Supplementary things. We have shamans who have never even seen a ram, so to speak, only on TV. Well, there are those who come and say, give me everything, I want to do it all. He even sniffs like this. It's all to understand. So, you see, it's all different.
I haven't even sniffed a ram.
Yeah, that's me. I need to try everything, sniff it, touch it, participate. There are those, and that's actually very good.
Yes, I agree with that.
When a person fully immerses themselves and understands the whole process.
But how long do shamans live? What do you think? Is there any statistics on that? They are different from ordinary people. Because, well, the question is that people say shamans don't live long.
Up until a certain point, it was like that. When the heavenly gates were closed, we mostly worked, lived, and communicated with the lower world. So, a shaman, not possessing all the strength, condition, and certain abilities, accumulates the foreign energy of illness and problems without the ability to remove it from themselves, cleanse it, and not pass it on to their descendants. So, with the worlds, now that the heavenly gates have opened, all 3 worlds have started to work. And now that there are shamans who possess all the knowledge, conditions, and the right things, they are living normally, like ordinary people. Even better. Let me give you a simple example. We all know that there were scientists like physicists, nuclear specialists, Cree. They didn't discover X-rays, so they didn't know they needed to protect themselves. I didn't know. They didn't know that lead plates were needed, that these are invisible rays, they kill, and also only are amans. They lacked the ability to protect from negativity. Modern shamans now have the knowledge and skills to prevent these issues. The modern generation, let's say, over the last 100 to 200 years, yes, and now we, the current shamans, possess all the knowledge, abilities, and contemporary secular knowledge. We understand how all of this works now, and we have the ability and opportunity to prevent and remove it all so that the shaman doesn't suffer from it. Therefore, a shaman is just like an ordinary person. They will live as long as they are meant to, not to let it get to the point where the shaman suffers from it. So, a shaman is just like an ordinary person. They will live as long as they are meant to. But we have rituals. It's called the exchange of life. Who gonna exchange with? Here you go. This gives a person the opportunity like changing an engine or a battery in a car. That's what it is, yes, and a person's life is extended. We can do this. We do this.
Wow. I see. So, what kind of restrictions can be imposed? The status of a shaman in ordinary life. You have some strict limitations, right?
There are no restrictions. Shamans dedicate to shamanism. It becomes their life. Shamanism was local, sacred, tied to lineage. As the ancestors grow in understanding and the shaman's aspirations, it all pulls him in, and it becomes his way of life.
Great, you see, we can certainly be mistaken, but there's a feeling that in the past, shamanism was more local, more for the lineage of a person, and thus more sacred. Today, we can clearly see that there are entire centers in Moscow, and there are even many centers in St. Petersburg. And isn't it better to keep shamanism more intimate?
Intimacy could exist when there was a small population and no migration, but that's impossible in the modern world. That's why shamanism used to be tribal. It was about summer and winter camps, and a small ritual for the purpose of battle. Because during the Soviet Union and with the increase in population, interbreeding and migration led to a situation where there were a lot of people and there was a lot to do, and shamans had more work. Because regular prayers are for the livestock not to die, for the milk yield, and for the children not to get sick, so that the wolves don't bite. And now you need to buy a car, a house, sell something, buy something else, go somewhere, and learn something. Diseases have reached a different level. There weren't such diseases before, like COVID, for example, but it exists now. So, with the growth of the population, we see that shamans and our shamanic techniques, practices, they go beyond tribal boundaries, because before there was Tangarianism and the Slavs also had paganism. And accordingly, all of this is being revived now. And the foundation of all this, of course, is family. And the foundation of the state is also family. Clan, family, tribe. So everything is being restored, everything is coming back to its roots. I think that's normal. People should honor their ancestors. And to believe in the religion they have accepted, we must not forget ever.
So you admit that we can fly with 2 wings?
Yes, even on 3, even on 4. It doesn't matter.
It is clear how you think about karma, how you explain the concept of karma. I understand that this will be to understand, and it has already circled the globe. Yes, and everyone explains it.
It's quite a common term in its own way. Yeah, well, like...
For most people, it's actually a very specific term in Buddhism. It refers to the consequences of previous lives.
A person's soul persists, residing in a human, not an animal. The soul has potential for perfection. A serious soul in a human. The soul on earth is human and perfectible, knowledge and creativity. The soul, when on earth, exists in a human body and can achieve perfection. It gains knowledge and creativity, feeling complete due to our reason, intellect and spirit. Knowledge of the world, creativity, through creativity, knowledge. And accordingly, only in a human body does the soul feel complete, because we have reason, intellect, erudition, and spirit. Soul is will. So this is important.
In other words, you don't deny it, reincarnation.
We know, and we do it.
Does a shaman guide the soul after death? After death? Does the soul move somewhere specific if there is a strong shaman in the family?
After 49 days, when the soul says goodbye to its relatives and reflects on its life on earth and contemplates, then the ancestral shaman, having the ability and opportunity, catches that soul and ensures that it bypasses hellish systems, purgatories. It immediately goes to the ancestors.
Despite karma.
Sure. Well, you see, a shaman is like a programmer. He can easily recode anything.
So what about this serious postulate that everyone first ends up in the lower world?
They arrive, just make a mark, and then move on. There, the ancestors come and say, "Hey, you, come here, we're taking you." It's like when you arrive at the airport. They greet you and take you away. You don't need Go City.
The next question, where souls come from? Planet population growing. Souls have arrived again after 100 years. You've noticed that something has grown by 2 billions. Where are they from? This soul is not in the ancestral system, and our soul is constantly being reborn in its ancestral system. And there are some other scenarios.
Is usually reborn in its ancestral system. But you kind of jumped ahead with the question. The thing is, in essence, planet Earth is a central hub for the movement of souls from different systems. So, human toast, just like the number of cars is increasing in our cities, so are the people. Souls are from any systems, from any planet. So here, the fact that people go to each other, they have ears, heads, hands, and legs, but there can be entities in them that have nothing to do with being human.
You know, we are here. Earthly shamanism is rare and specialized. Imagine a shaman in Zakamensk.
Well, earthly shamanism is actually quite specialized and rare. When shamans lived in the area of their habitat, well, for example, just imagine a shaman in Zakamensk. He can't perform rituals in Petropavlovka or in Ulan-Ude. This is Earth Shaman. What about...
Shaman doesn't travel.
No, they cannot. The earthly shaman Yablokombo Tashkabarian indeed has no right and cannot perform rituals in another territory. And we, heavenly shamans Tengrizayan, we are eternity and the sky mill. For us, the planet is a temple, and we can pray anywhere in the world.
Another problem is that they can't figure out how to pray to eternity and the sky mill.
They don't have the initiation or knowledge at this level. They are prisoners of their traditions.
This is quite interesting indeed.
Because traditions are indeed made by people, habits that have been formed. And there are sacred things, the depth of the ages, but no one talks about it. And you were initiated as an earthly shaman right away, not like my dad, who was initiated as an earthly shaman in the 8th year. She had limitations, but he didn't. He had no right to use the drums.
So you were initiated in the agency? It's just like spring, it's clear, interesting. So, you know, we have probably a few Saturdays that look like this, but nevertheless, as it was generally expected, people were writing to us through the channel how the fee is set for the work that a shaman does for people. It's indeed a very complicated, not so important question.
The system, we sold it very well earlier. People worked goods and services such as it was at the farm where the exchange of goods took place, and the shaman was paid with a live ram for his work, or with some animal, or with whatever was on the table and could be easily passed on. Could be easily passed on. Both monetary and financial policy. The shaman is formed. Before it was formed with natural products, like a ram there, wool, or food, or some clothing. Now, in the modern world, there is this concept of money for shamans. Money is an objectively encompassing component that includes work-related labor, such as investment, time, and resources. Well, convenient. Many shamans live in the city, and for their work they will be paid with sheep, which they will keep on their balcony. Problem, they pay the same value for the shaman's services. So the ritual price is formed precisely from this. That is for the shaman's work. A person, based on their internal understanding, should at least pay the price of a sheep. Well, or more. Well, in general, all shamans typically work in various ways, in whatever way they can, really. So a person comes in, there are some small rituals. Well, they put in whatever amount they put in.
But what about the postulates that say he serves humanity in his own free time, so he shouldn't charge money for it?
The shaman's power depends on how many offerings to his ancestors and the universe. To his ancestors and the universe will make offerings, and he will also pay with coins. And that's why the shaman takes energy from his lineage, and the lineage takes this energy from the universe. And it doesn't work that way. That the shaman took energy, shared it with another, and that will be his only. The problem.
Got it.
So, this movement of energy is essential. And we, as shamans, are like a kind of transport, a company, or a payment system. Just like with Pelpi or Spurbank. We transfer this energy back and forth, or like SDK took a package, or Russian Post took it and delivered it for a service, and we were paid for it. You need to approach this calmly. I believe that shamanic work is indeed extremely challenging and serious, because the stakes are our lives, the lives of my loved ones, and these are very serious matters. Well, just imagine we shamans take away the bad energy. Imagine this, a person comes home and their house is destroyed, and they hire builders to repair, restore, and do a major renovation on the house. And so the workers come and do all of this. And when they built my house, he said, well, good job, you did well. There's no such thing as a goodbye, and the shaman is the same. In our work, we take away negativity, we take away heavy energy, illnesses, and problems. All of this needs to be removed, disposed of, packed up, scattered, and dissolved. But there are special divine services that deal with this, right? Processing negative energy. They also need to be paid. And the shaman pays for energy with prayers, and by doing his rituals, that's how he lives. And if you don't pay for this, if you don't settle up, then these divine systems will impose a fine, a tax, or a penalty. And then person suffers from the shaman. Either he suffers, or his loved ones suffer. Solve it. We need to do it in a way that no one has problems. Again, a person also needs to understand and share in order to... It's a serious matter. And there's no need to worry about what the shamans do. Set the prices, there are no problems. Any commercial structure, any person or entity, the owner of the goods, can do whatever they want. For example, I have a great opportunity, such as a wonderful chance to meet someone halfway. Well, I see, for example, a woman came to me and she has 9 children. She's no husband. And accordingly, well, it's clear that it's hard for her, but I performed some rituals, and it helped her. And there are people who, well, financially capable, you say, well, if that's indeed truly the case, really. But all of this is voluntary, we don't force people. We tell a person that they can buy these things here, or do this here. A person agrees or disagrees, or, therefore, to all shamans and people, be kind, patient, and philosophical about everything.
Please tell our subscribers what a family ritual is.
Ancestral. The ancestral healing ritual is the most important, the most serious, and a very powerful ritual, which deals with almost 80% of all human problems in various situations and scenarios. The ancestral ritual allows you to connect and establish a profound and strong connection with your ancestors and deeply meaningful and significant heavenly guardians. And on the so-called ancestral rituals allow demigods to help us. Higher gods approve, restoring hierarchy and structure. The higher gods grant permission for this, and when the higher gods give their approval, our demigods, our ancestors, begin to help us. The entire hierarchy, structure, and authority are restored among us, and then everything starts to function properly. Shaman, people on earth, the living, our ancestor demigods, and the divine system of the concept of the universe, nature. And when everything indeed starts to work harmoniously, people's lives begin to improve. Everything falls into place, everything comes into harmony. Happiness and good mood come from within. Go away. And, well, happiness comes from within, along with a good mood. Normal. Yes.
You know, I've noticed that the word from the Buryat Angon has gained immense popularity in our times, especially. I even see him sometimes, he writes Angon. In general, what you can explain is what the Buryat word Angon means, which is often used to describe.
I haven't even thought about it, by the way, regarding this. I honestly can't even say, but Angon is really simply the spirit of an ancestor. Spirit of an ancestor. Replaces the shaman's soul, enters, takes control of the body and uses it, and it speaks, comes on request. Angon, spirit of ancestor. And it comes upon request. They usually say Angon, spirit of the ancestor.
Uh-huh. You're already a shaman who not only works with your ancestral Angons, but there are times when completely different people come to you. You can evaluate the Angons of different lineages, am I right? Yes. Have there been cases when the Angons spoke in strange languages? In English, German, Portuguese, Austrian?
Yes. In Tajik, Uzbek, Kyrgyz, Azerbaijani. Talish is Azerbaijani. There was Turkish, German, and English. Yakut, Tatar. Well, usually it's not 100%. It's more like a dialogue going on, but some phrases are quite fragmented. But that person who waits for and meets their ancestor, there are some words. In their head, everything is clear. Though it may seem gibberish, some words they sound gets it. But some words, things, they sound, and the person understands what it's all about. When I come out of the entrance, I don't remember it.
So, it completely throws you off, as they say, excuse me, I'm switching to journalist mode, it completely throws you off, right? So you don't hear anything, don't remember.
No, there are different things. Angon, it's not the same. That's the first point. Second point.
Depend on the Angon.
It depends on the Angon. No, it depends on the Angon. Well, in my experience, there are times when it feels like I've just fallen asleep and then woke up. Or, for example, I lost consciousness and then woke up. And there are times when it's like I see and hear everything, but at the same time I understand that it's not me, and I can't influence all of this. So my hands don't obey me, my legs don't obey me. At first I was scared, at first I felt uncomfortable. But then I realized that this is Angon and this is the process.
Well, we remember that it's not the timid ones who throw punches.
Well, yeah, and I kind of let it go, and that's it. The most important thing you see is about the power of Angon. What is it? And what Ango conveys sacred and profound information, value, information. Shamans are becoming the coolest. Shamans provide ancient, future, and present insights. Because we can provide historical information from many thousands of years ago. We can look back at certain events and draw information from the future, as well as from the present. Because many of our Buryats are here in the Irkutsk region. They don't come to me for appointments. When I started doing the analysis and asking why this is happening, it was just one phrase. They speak the truth. And it's hard to live with it.
But honestly, it often feels uncomfortable, right? It's always uncomfortable.
Reduced to decide something, to do something. Or, for example, if it points out certain sins. For example, in married couples, infidelity comes to light. And people come to me saying, look at the shame. Husband cheats or wife doesn't. I say, these are your problems. We see it, we know it, but we don't say it. Why?
How great that you brought up this topic. The concept of sin outlined in all religions, there is also a system for evaluating sin, most well-known being Christian one. Confession, its influence on mentality, the well-known community. Before a person faces God's judgment, they first do a huge amount of spiritual work to evaluate their sins. So, it's a big activity. Spiritual integrism.
Regarding Tengrism concept sin, I don't know.
Don't we have sins?
No. Regarding Tengrism, the relationship of Tengrism to sin, I will share my personal opinion. Sin is the greatest thing that was created for humanity. Because through sin, and sin is making mistakes, such as not following the rules, it gives us a chance to see the world is structured.
University, right?
Yes, uni. So, for me, sin is not a problem.
If you are writing about Zrenai, the legend of Abkhazia, such example.
Of course, a man drank away his grandson, his son, and his wife cut off his head. And they went to the sky. And she said, "Punish me so that I would be his wife forever. He would be afraid of me." That's such a legend. The gods did just that.
Well, since we are in such a place, we have a very strong temptation to ask, what came first, the gods or humans? There's this idea that people prayed so fervently that the gods had to come into existence. Who was first? Were gods or humans?
First there were the gods, who created us humans. But on earth there are several races. It's not about race, by skin color, but race, by biological condition. We have people on earth who are born of the gods. There are indeed people who are born of the gods. And there are people who are made and they don't have that divinity. And those people who lack divinity, they experience and train. Those people who have divine essence, divine blood, the genetics of the gods, our ancestors, aliens, so that we can return again, develop technologies, and meet once more.
Got it. Since we're talking about the gods, where are the old gods? They still exist, they can be revived, they will come to life if they regain strength, if people start believing in them again. In Amel?
They also did it. We can already see how the world is changing. Everyone awakened.
The team from Mount Olympus can rise again before...
Regarding Mount Olympus, the Greeks and Buryat gods are among us. But our Buryat gods are now coming. Because we've done all of this.
Interesting. And new gods may arise. Some... How does it happen?
Of course. Absolutely 100%. There are gods, a system that comes into human bodies as avatars, and here they carry out their politics. So we don't know what gods have come here, perhaps walking on the earth. What systems, what levels?
When here is the shamanic life, that... What is the happiest, most pleasant thing? And what is the most difficult and unpleasant, sad?
I used to worry about this too, that there are many things I can't do. 4 degrees of treatment. There, I catch them. They walk on water, but over time... Recently I realized something very interesting. It turns God has strict instruction. And they can't make movements, because for them, the concept of time doesn't exist. They exist simultaneously in the past, in present, future. And they are like just in a static state. At 0. They are fixed, yes. Their life is movement, and only we, the living people of the earth, with our prayers, requests, and algorithms, with the tasks, we give them the opportunity to start, to move, and they begin to live in this moment. For this they need us. So, when we live on earth and give the gods the opportunity to move, to feel life in immortality, we are here on earth, humans, people. During our human life, we need to feel and understand what eternity is.
Challenging task.
Very.
So, there's a question. Can you pray or make an offering to an egregore, for example, a company, in the context of modern life? And who would then be the beneficiary of the offering? For example, if we take a look at a case, there are big international major football teams, right? All nations are involved there. So, how could we approach this example? Because the team owners change from time to time. Who be beneficiary?
Well, people came to me saying, when the World Cup was on, we prayed for our national team. They remembered the Spaniards, and the Spaniards won. Journalists simply came to us and asked us to pray. We performed rituals and our guys won. Regarding shamanism and specifically the approach, the beneficiary, of course, is primarily the ancestors, the gods, and we ask them to assist us. Luck.
So we ask them to assist us, look for football teams, let's say the owner, the CEO, or whoever will be the waiter. How is this all distributed? Anders, the team will get everything, all according to the lessons.
Their levels, bonuses. Athletes will gain health, will gain a light strength, winning. The company will make a profit. Everything's linked. But we pray for our Tonga hockey team, for the guys, but it's not bad to have. A parent is simply asking earnestly for their son in prayer there. But they are climbing the career ladder, getting into good clubs, and earning great salaries. Our boxers, wrestlers. So we pray for them when the coach comes and asks personally. Of course we do all of this. Scent is high. Result.
We heard, you know, that your spouse is also initiated.
Yes, she is an initiated person. It so happened that in her family, her great-grandfather was a Buryat, here in Irkutsk, was a merchant and was engaged on the Kachuevsky tract. They transported goods. He had a profitable house, a hotel, and he welcomed people there. He treated and helped organize the cargo transportation along the Kachuevsky tract. And that's where we met. Well, you see, as the teacher, my wife actually followed me, and that's it. She's right over there, you know.
What can you say? It's difficult. Is your spouse also an initiated person? Or does it make life easier? In practice?
I want to speak and represent the words of all the shamans. Because when a shaman embarks on their path, their road, at the very least, the other half should support and accept. And at best, it's best to become a shaman too. Because everyone has a morning. It's a morning. Everyone has it. We're all human. All people have mornings. All people have ancestors. So, when one of the spouses becomes a shaman, over time, their energy grows. It's like, just imagine, yes, we're heating something. And the further the shaman goes, the stronger this object heats up. Well, let's imagine there's a mug sitting on the stove. The metal is heating up, and the water in it is not boiling. And it's already very difficult to take it with bare hands. We have to take a towel or an oven mitt, yes, and then it can be picked up. And so, when one of the spouses becomes a shaman, they become energetically very strong and heavy. And for the other half, to be just next to him, she also needs to grow. So, when a shaman appears in the family, the other half needs to understand that sooner or later, to maintain health and family, it's advisable to also become a shaman. And to go through all of this perfectly, to gain strength and to be together as one and whole. This is better for children, better for the family, and better for a person's health.
There is an opinion that we are experiencing the golden age of shamanism. What do you think about that?
Not yet.
Not yet.
No, of course not. 90% of Buryats don't speak Buryat. In this interview, we're speaking in Russian. 90%, shall we switch to Buryat? 90% of people don't even understand what it is. It's such an archaic thing, like some nonsense, some kind of performance, a theater. But in reality, shamanism is a very serious system. It's a way of life, the ability to live in harmony with oneself. And obeying the laws of nature and the universe is a very serious matter because a person is created in its likeness. The universe. We are a fractal of the universe. All kinds of systems are embedded within us. Just imagine some kind of engineer who was an expert. A person decided to make a scooter. He made 2 wheels, added a handle, and took it for a ride. Then, let me add 2 more wheels. Then, there are pedals and something else. And then humanity came along, and the machine appeared. It's a serious mechanism now. Very high intellectual, very serious. And just like that, God first created 1 wheel, and then, as if by divine intervention, a 2nd wheel. He made something else, he put it together, and it turned into a car. But the wheel in relation to the car started out, but it has a lower status. And so it's written in the Bible that when God created man, he said, you all serve man, because you are indeed truly a part of this more expansive whole in the form of a human. It's within us, all's embedded. And all these different systems are waiting for their, as they say, share, their authorship. And we should honor this and share with them.
So what future variations do you see? Shamanism.
What exactly do you mean by that? It's just simple, very simple. We indeed understand that Baikal is sacred. 35,000 years ago, Andronov and Denisov. Archaeological excavations prove that the Proto-Buryats lived here at Baikal. About 40,000 years ago, we Buryats lived here. The Buryat, Lake Baikal, is truly and deeply sacred. That means we are all sacred here too. Well, since we are all sacred, that means we should behave accordingly. To preserve, to cherish, to love, to appreciate, to respect, that is all good. To carry goodness. Well, since we live here, it means we are worthy, and if we are worthy, we need to maintain our standards. About shamans alone speak on communication's nature. For us, all is isomorphic. They are based on holy scriptures and beliefs created by people which have a historical root, authored and compiled by various individuals over time. And for us, everything is isomorphic. Spiritual, otherworldly, energetic. Why? It's more complicated for us.
You all have indeed been living, since the moment of initiation up to now, on shamanic land.
Right here, where Baikal is, our ancestors lived, and so on. Yes, the whole land is sacred.
If life has turned out in such a way that you would have to move to some western lands, yes, that's what would make it different, and the energy, or in general how the circumstances would be different. Were you in favor of just breaking away and going? If all the conditions were created, would you need to move and live somewhere else? Let's say in Germany, in Moscow, in the Netherlands.
There's a saying, where you were born, there you are useful. That's the first one. For me personally, from the point of view of being a nomad, it makes no difference at all whether you hold and work, especially with modern technology.
The internet allows you to be connected, but what about the opinion that your ancestors won't hear you from thousands of kilometers away, won't they?
We are always praying to the sky. YouTube works everywhere like that, and the sky works everywhere. Well, shamanism is like a divine web. Just so people understand, it's not without the internet. You can connect from anywhere in the world. It's just like how you can access YouTube from any point in the world.
This could have started entirely and absolutely without the late media in any way.
I prayed to the spirit of the place and finished. It's the same with them. Everything you see here is the same over there.
No problem. I absolutely understand how you see your old age.
I see my old age absolutely wonderfully. I'm 52 years old, but I feel like I'm 35 or 40. We shamans, when we pray, we do everything right, indeed, actually. We age slower than my peers. As I age, you'll seem 80, 75. My peers, I age, you will look like you're 80. I want to. My great-grandfather lived to be 107, and I aim for 108. Well, I want to. My great-grandfather lived to be 107. I want to live 108. Remember him. Meet him. Yes, I got to meet him. I met him. Oh, he scolded me. What? Well, I was quite restless. I used to climb on the roof, on the chimney, and shout. I was there peeking from there. So,
Next.
well, of course, you're always getting into trouble. Climbing up to the attic, climbing trees.
Do you have a son who gets into trouble and climbs up to the attic?
No, I have 5 daughters, 1 granddaughter.
Ah, that's what it is.
Yes. But I truly and deeply understand now why I wasn't given a son, because I would probably have indeed broken him morally. Because I have very strict demands on girls. Girls, but you know, girls can be quite tough, you know. They really can hit sometimes. In general. Are you happy? How else? Of course I'm definitely happy. Everything fine, everything good. I realized forgetting our ancestors and traditions caused failures, restored everything. Thanks to them, I have all. We forgot our ancestors and traditions, I restored them. Everything I need and have is thanks to them. It's all like in school. And truly everything I need in life, everything I have is thanks to them. It's all like in school. I finished my studies and did my homework. I have free time to walk around, to play, and now I find myself in a state of free time and enjoy these leisurely moments.
Do you think there might come a time when you get tired of sitting on the porch with your mother and silently looking at the sky all day and night?
And you need to step away from everything boring you must eat. It can't be, because it brings joy and delight and happiness to our lives each and every single day, because it is truly such a wonderful and intricate process. I'm flying out into worlds. I see all of that there. You know, this Spielberg, I don't know.
So you're dependent?
Very much, right deep inside me.
That's bad.
I'm really going through withdrawal. It's still mild, but everything hurts. I have this inner turmoil. It's a serious thing. I'm truly amazed at where our incredible directors and filmmakers get their ideas, such as Avatar or Star Wars. Well, it's pretty much the same thing.
Alan Jamameev is telling us that you haven't seen this interview where he talks about the Peruvian shamans who have an entire village where people come to them, but the highest hierarchies in Hollywood have their own village. They actually have their own place. They have own village there at all. They don't accept anyone except for the director of Avatar. What's his name? Spielberg. He's also a client of that village. They take care of them. They use ayahuasca, all that stuff. And when that's unclear. This isn't a feature film, it's a documentary that he just put on screen after his experience.
Get it now.
And what were they shouting, the Peruvians say? How dare you? You took our land, and now you're taking our gods too. In general.
Sense.
Ha ha ha. So, on this cheerful note, we would like to wrap up for today, and Buryatski. So, that means to throw out a line for the future that maybe this isn't the last time, since such a channel has opened up. Allow us to occasionally and periodically come to you from time to time to ask questions from those in need until the 7th moon.